Good morning. My name is Betsy Stites, and I am the legislative coordinator for the Woodbury Cottage Grove Area League of Women Voters. And we're thrilled to have you all today to listen to our very important legislators, especially as they are here before the session even begins. So we'll be able to get some really wonderful input from them. I'd like to welcome everybody to this webinar, and I'm going to take a few minutes to give you a brief overview of the League of Women Voters. Since its inception in October 1919, the League members have developed positions on a variety of issues through an intensive process of study and consensus. The League of Minnesota advocates for those positions at the legislature and other levels of government. The League positions are available at lwv.mn.org. The League of Women Voters encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. It's really important for us to be recognized as a nonpartisan organization, neither supporting nor opposing candidates or political parties at any level of government, but always working on vital concerns to members and the public. The League holds nonpartisan candidate forums. In the fall, we run nonpartisan voter registration drives and advocates on a limited number of issues. Today's legislative interviews offer an opportunity to expand everybody's understanding of the issues that are being confronted at the legislature for 2025. I look forward to hearing everybody's input and really want to recognize the participation of our 5 legislators this morning. 3 of our legislators from our district are not able to participate and be here. Their schedules didn't allow Representative DePel, Representative Seeberger, and Senator Klein, but we have all of the 5 legislators that represent our areas. I'd like to provide an overview today of how we're going to move forward with this program. We'll begin with moderator-led discussion questions, and they've been developed through input from our members, from the State League of Women Voters, and also from our Woodbury Cottage Grove membership and community. Our issues focus on equal rights, protection of our Minnesota waters, and redistricting process. In addition, we have priorities around budget, affordable housing, mental health, immigration, gun violence, and communication. So obviously there's a lot in front of us. Legislators will have 1 minute and 30 seconds for the first question, which isn't very much, but we have a timer here so that everybody gets to participate, and then 1 minute for each additional question. After the questions, our legislators will have 1 minute for a final summary, and we'll close with announcement and comments from about what our next events are going to be. Because the audience questions were submitted in advance, and I think we have a really well-developed group of questions, we will not have Q&As from the audience, but people are able to leave comments and questions if they go to our Woodbury Cottage Grove website, and there's an area called advocacy, and you can leave comments there. The other really great thing is that this is being recorded so that it will be on our website afterwards, and also our local cable channel will be showing it. So you'll have access afterwards to look at it. I hope that our legislators will send it out to their constituents, and we really look forward to hearing from everybody this next hour. Jody Ritaka, who is our public relations coordinator, and I will be moderating, And so off we go. I'm going to ask the first question, and the question is going to be, and I know it's a lot in 1 minute and 30 seconds, but I know you can do it. What district do you represent, and what is your committee assignment? What will be your top 3 priorities? And what current legislation are you planning to support, or are you planning on introducing any new bills? And it might be way too early for some of that, but here we go. And we're going to start out with Representative Chaw because we're going in alphabetical order.
Thank you, and for having me this morning, and it's great to see all of you. My name is State Representative Ethan Cha, and I represent 47B in the House of Representatives. This is my second term, and my committee assignments for this session will be commerce, legacy, and pensions. What are my priorities? My priority for my district is going to be that bonding dollars for the water tower that's much needed in Woodbury to complement the water treatment plant that's going into Woodbury. That's around $300 billion. And so the water tower is going to be a priority and one of the main legislation bills that I would be focusing on. Other areas are another bill I'm chief author, which is the Climate Health Task Force, to put together a task force to study the impacts of climate change to mental health, which I think is very important to our young people. And as always, I'll continue to champion, children and families in Woodbury. So thank you.
Thank you very much. This next question goes to Representative Hansen.
Well, hello, my name is Rick Hansen. I represent District 53B in Washington County. That is Newport, St. Paul Park, part of Cottage Grove, and northern Gray Cloud Island Township. I also represent all of South St. Paul and 2 precincts in Inver Grove Heights. This year, the committees that I'm on are agriculture, which I will be chairing, environment, and capital investment. Like Representative Cha, capital investment is the bonding committee. That is where the public works or the infrastructure projects are when we have a lot of needs in our community with basic infrastructure, whether it's inflow infiltration in Newport, roads, bridges, sewers, water, or even a new swimming pool in South St. Paul. So basically, those public works infrastructure projects are the top priority. PFAS and clean water continue to be an issue. That's probably going to intersect with infrastructure when we're looking at how do we pay for cleaning up, as well as looking at further prevention activities. And then finally, for Washington County, the intersection between mining and the development, water quality, land protection will also be a top issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Heminger-Zager.
Morning. Thanks so much for having us today and welcome. My name is Amanda Hemmingson-Yeager. I am the representative for 47A, which represents Southern Maplewood and about half of Woodbury. My committees this session or this biennium include health, children and families. I'm honored to be the vice co-chair for veterans and military affairs. And then I'm also listed as an alternate for our ethics committee. As far as top 3 priorities go, I want to really continue to run on those values of increasing access to affordable healthcare, looking at ways to make childcare more affordable, and passing a state budget. Some legislation that I'm planning to support include any kind of policies that support those values. I will also add environmental policies in there. When I look more on a immediate scale, some specific things I'm looking at include reforms surrounding homeowners associations, supporting a bill that will help fund our Washington County Public Works building. And then I'm also promoting a constituent idea, looking at ways to make sustainable aviation fuel, looking at a study to use wastewater for that. So looking forward to a good session and good biennium ahead.
Great. Thanks so much. Representative Johnson.
Thank you. I'm Wayne Johnson.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations on your election.
And I was just
year.
gonna, thank you. I was just gonna mention I'm the newbie on the panel here, or actually down in St. Paul. So my other members here have the advantage of knowing what went on last year more than I do. But I represent 41A, which is the northern part of Cottage Grove, Denmark Township, going over to the river communities like Afton, on up until you get to West Lakeland, you go over to Lake Elmo and up to Grant. So pretty much represents Washington County, a long district. What I'm going to go down there, and right now I am on labor and workforce, housing, and taxes. And what I'm concentrating on is what I've heard when I went to the doors. That was really when I was going door to door. And actually from the different committees or people that I've sat down with since, whether it's cities, counties, school boards and stuff like that, is my mandates, working on the unfunded mandates that are affecting all of us with taxes, combating fraud, which we have started with right now. Also, dealing with everything really goes back to the cost of living. Education is on the minds of people that I talk to. So everything along with that, along with addressing the concerns people are having right now, and the bells are starting to ring on the paid family medical leave and some of the challenges that is going to be creating. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Mitchell.
Good morning. I'm Senator Mitchell from District 47, which is all of Woodbury and a portion of South Maplewood. As for committees, we unfortunately had a passing recently, and so once we have a new election, they might change. But it was looking like I would be on human services again, energy, utility, environment, and climate again, and higher education. Some of my priorities for this year, I sit on the environment climate because I have a background as a meteorologist. So I've really heard from people in my district and across Minnesota, clean air, clean water. Some of those priorities are very important to them. So I will continue to do that work. Just making sure government in general is transparent. Last year, I started some work on affordable housing initiatives, so kind of keeping the momentum on some of those. But of course, the things for our district and our constituents. I have a couple constituent bills, including 2 that were brought by students in our district. So I always think it's exciting to have young people in our office that want to get involved early. One was actually just named to a committee working on healthcare standards for the entire state for our education system. So I was so proud when we can help constituents like that. And then also for partnerships with our city and county, like working on tax things for the water tower or recreation centers, things like that.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go to the second question, and we'll start with Representative Hansen, but I'll share the question. During the 2023 legislative session, except for $3.7 billion, the $17.6 billion surplus was spent. It included paying off a number of programs such as the stadium and funding some new and ongoing programs. We are projected to possibly have a budget deficit by 2028. What do you believe the state could or should do to address the budget issue? And Representative Hansen, will start with you.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad you mentioned the $3 billion that was there, because that rainy day fund reserve is really important as we may enter choppy waters with the economy and our budget. Having been through budget cutting before, kind of the first step is looking at unencumbered funds. If there are appropriations that have not or will not be spent, recovering those. But I think the good news is even just yesterday, we get monthly budget updates in addition to the forecast. We receive a forecast at the end of November and at the end of February on which we base our budget, and then subsequently get additional updates. And I think we were in the positive side about 320 million. So if the economy continues to hold strong in terms of receipts and having the reduced spending because of some of the decisions we have made, then that leaves the budget cutting a little less urgent, but still it's important for us to look at what we've done and how we can make things better during the next 2 years.
Thank you. Representative Hemmington Jaeger.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I think it's actually really smart fiscal policy that we are looking into what's called like the tails. So most states only look at the next 2 years when they're looking at their budget, but Minnesota has taken a smart fiscal approach and not only looking at what's in 2 years ahead of us, but as things stand right now, what do things look like 2 years beyond that? So we know what it looks like with the variables that we have now. So that gives us time to plan. And I think this was the result of a really smart law that we passed right away in 23, where we account for inflation right away in the calculation. So we will be more accurate right away instead of this whole like, oh, we have a surplus, but accounting for inflation, it's actually this. It's all right there right away. And as for policies, I just want to make sure that those that are profiting at the expense of the middle class are paying their fair share too.
Thank you. Representative Johnson.
Thank you. One of the things that we need to figure out before we can see what needs to be addressed is one of the things that came up is fraud. So how much money is actually going out that isn't necessary to go out? One of the things that also we're doing with Speaker Designate Dameth sent out letters to the different agencies to find out the money that was allocated specifically for employee positions that have not been filled. How many people are working from home? Do we need office space? So we really don't have a handle on what we really need to spend yet before we decide what we need to do. One of the things that we need to figure out too, which is kind of getting delayed a little bit with what the split happening down there, is what other things are going to come up. I've been talking to the cities. I've been talking to the schools. The schools are sharing with me the significant deficits that are going to be put on them as a result of the paid family leave, other mandates that they've been given that are unfunded. So we don't know what they're going to be coming to us to ask for to keep them open. Funding is one of it. Labor shortage is going to be a result of it over time with the police department. So we don't know what everybody's going to be looking for. Until we get a handle on that, we have to find out what we need, truly need, and then we can start figuring out what also is coming in or what we need to start addressing. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Mitchell.
Thank you for the question. I want to, because Representative Hansen and Hemmingson Jaeger so well explained both the current fiscal situation, and how we're calculating that in the future to make sure we stay on top of it. I want to take a little look back. The budget surplus that we had, in part, when I got in, I learned was because there was money that should have been being spent all along. And we got ourselves in this surplus situation, but it was because we weren't doing things like basic infrastructure investments and keeping up with some of the resources that our public schools needed. So we used a lot of that money for these one-time projects that are going to benefit us for decades. I mean, who hasn't had a car problem because the roads were bad, right? We needed to fix some of that stuff. One of the other investments was in childcare. So these are things that will not only help us, but will continue to stimulate our economy going forward when people have things like childcare so that they can participate in the workforce.
Thank you. Representative Cha.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself there, but I'm with my colleagues on this. I would add to this that we made some investment into some areas that needed to be needed the investments. Like Senator Mitchell said, that these were not over taxation. It was more so of a surplus because of investments that were not made in previous years that did not agree upon on. And so, as going back into the legislature in 2025 here, I think that we have a working legislator that is going to put our heads together and to continue to do what is right for Minnesotans. And I think that I'm very confident with my, our House members and senators of the state that we will come to an agreement by the end of the session. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Jody now for our next questions.
Well, thank you so much, Betsy. And good morning, everyone, and I'm glad to have you here on the legislative interview. So thank you so much for your time. Next, we would like to share your position on 2 areas of public interest and concern. In addition to the policies passed in the previous session, what do you feel are the most important actions that should be taken this legislative session to protect Minnesota's water supply and keep our drinking water free from contaminations? And we'll begin with Representative Hansen.
Thank you. It's similar to the past years, but with a bit more focus on PFAS, the polyfluoroalkyl substances. Biosolids are going to be a big issue, looking at historical and current use of where does sewage sludge get applied. In the northeastern part of the country, this issue of past sludge applications having PFAS contamination on farms and then subsequent water is an issue. Secondly, will be microplastics. That's tied in with sludge as well, but also in how we manage waste and trying to reduce or eliminate getting microplastics in our water supply and eventually in us. And then on the agricultural side, nitrates are going to continue to be an issue. The issue is not going to go away. So nitrates in water, and also with the high likelihood of nitrates being in water are neonicotinoids that come from commercial corn production seed treatments. So those 3 things are going to continue to be issues, but biosolids is probably going to be the emerging issue where we'll have to spend a lot of time on prevention.
Thank you very much, Representative Hemmingsen-Yager. The question is for you about the water supply to keep our drinking water free from contaminations.
Yeah, this is a great question. This is one that's really important to my community as well. I was fortunate to be the co-chair of the subcommittee on Minnesota water policy, and we talked a lot about water and different contaminants, and I was able to learn a lot and wrap my head around some things. I also really appreciate my dad was career Department of Natural Resources, so taking the entire ecosystem approach, understanding that water impacts health, it impacts our economy. We need to make sure it's protected. So I will kind of echo some of Representative Hansen's points about and adding to pesticides. We need to be looking at how pesticides affect our water. I think we need to hold strong to the amazing PFAS policies that were passed last session. And I will agree, the neonicotinoids is a great concern to me, especially with my genetics background, knowing that these are carcinogens, teratogens, mutagens that are getting into our water and could be impacting our health and safety.
Well, thank you so much. Representative Johnson.
Thank you. I happened to be city council member for Cottage Grove when the PFAS thing really blew up. I remember just a few months into it, we were shutting down wells and declaring emergencies. It's amazing, we're still working on that. And then also while I was on county board, we really championed water safety in our land and water legacy program that actually protected land, from the nitrates, and actually people would set aside land so we can start dealing with the different algae and milfoil and stuff like that. I know it's too bad Senator Seeberger isn't on here, because I know she's really championed the PFAS cause. And then I know she was just on TV yesterday. But I have not spent much time with that as my other members here. I definitely look forward to hearing different solutions they have, while I kind of concentrate on the things that I said I planned on championing down there. But I recognize we do have an issue in Washington County. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Senator Mitchell.
Thank you. The things everyone has already said, on the PFAS note, not only working at bills to make sure we don't have that in the future, that we're not adding to the problem, but things like the new water treatment facility that is, we already broke ground on in Woodbury a few months ago, that will help take it out and make the drinking water safer. And at the state level, we partner with projects like that to either try to get bonding money or in this case, tax breaks. So, you know, the projects are less expensive. So that's one way we do things. I also sit on the Clean Water Council, which is kind of something separate from normal legislative duties. And it's been so illuminating to see the projects we have all around the state going on to keep our water clean. So for example, in Afton Alps, there's a little river back there that was rehabilitated. We did a trout release of it a couple months ago and got it back in working shape. So we make those investments for all corners of the state to help keep our water clean.
Thank you so much. And Representative Charles.
Thank you for the question. I'm going to reiterate what Chair Hansen said, because we sat on agriculture together. So, you know, the southeastern Minnesota nitrate, you know, issues that we had across the state is going to be top and center to continue to work on that. But, you know, with everything that's been said, I would just like to add that, you know, being Minnesotan, being the headwaters for the Mississippi, that, you know, we need to ensure that the Mississippi continues to run clean for those that are downriver from us, right? And so, you know, those projects involving the Mississippi, I think it's important to the state, and it's consistent. On top of that, of course, you know, my district and ensuring that we have clean water for our healthy families is important. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Next question. Do you support adding the Equal Rights Amendment, the ERA, to the Minnesota Constitution? Why or why not? And we'll start with Representative Hemmingson Jaeger.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yes, I absolutely support this. I believe I was a co-author on the bill in the past, and I frankly just feel that it's past time that we have equal rights stated in our Constitution. And a lot of that just comes from, I want my daughters in a world where they're seen as truly equal.
Thank you. Representative Johnson.
Being it is my first year coming in, and I was going door to door and asking the different issues from the voters that I was visiting, that one did not come up at our doors as a top of mind of people. So I have not done much investigating, haven't learned much. It hasn't come up in front of us yet, obviously. So I am going to waive. I'm not going to make a judgment one way or another on it until I know more. It's just not something that was brought to me by voters saying that it was the top of mind issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Johnson. Senator Mitchell.
Thank you. One reason it might not have been brought up, Representative Johnson, is when I was talking about this, when we've been working on it on the last couple of years, and I would talk to some of my friends in my community, they were like, whoa, we don't have that yet. So I think a lot of people maybe don't bring it up because to me, it's just such common sense, right? We should treat everyone with equality. We should have that as one of our stated values in Minnesota. So not only do I support it, but from what I've heard from people when I talk about it, they're surprised we aren't there yet. And they're excited about the prospect that we are finally going to get this done and possibly put it on the ballots for people to vote to add that to our Constitution.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Child.
Yes, thank you for the question. You know, I will continue and always be a champion of the ERA. You know, I think it's so important because I myself have 3 daughters, but I think about my sisters, my mothers, my aunts, and those that are in my community that are from refugee or immigrant communities that, you know, we have always been, you know, second-class citizens in the country that we reside in. And this is the only country that allow us to have that freedom. And so I would like to continue to champion the ERA, put that on the ballot, and let Minnesota decide. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Representative Hansen.
Yes, I will vote for it, and I would ask our constituents to vote for it too.
Well, thank you very much. Next question comes from Betsy. So thank you, Betsy.
Our next questions relate to the End of Life Act and affordable housing. So I'm going to start with Representative Johnson. Do you support the Minnesota End of Life Options Act, which would legalize medical aid in dying? Why or why not?
Again, being the first term person, I wasn't there when the discussion happened. I've done a little bit of research, but not enough to make a judgment on it. When I was going to door, and I know Senator Mitchell mentioned why she thinks it didn't come up. I believe it didn't come up, and along with this did not come up because people were worried about putting food on their table, paying their rent, their kids being educated, and they thought that was a top of mind, immediate day-to-day concern that they had, that they were wanting to make sure I could address, which was the cost of living out in Washington County and what I could do to help them solve that. So again, haven't spent enough time on it to make a judgment one way or another. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Mitchell.
Thank you. I do support the End of Life Options Act. And the reason why is because in general, I believe in bodily autonomy and that we need to all be able to make our own healthcare decisions between ourselves and our doctors. For this in particular, it has some very specific guardrails on it as to when people can make decisions. So as I've talked to people, a lot support this. And the people that seem to have more questions don't understand that it's not something, you can make a choice for someone else, or if they don't have the capacity to make it. These are these very tailored, hard decisions. I had an aunt that passed from cancer a few years ago, and she didn't have this option, but she opted to have everything removed because she was in pain and only had a short expectancy. And these are the types of things that people need to be able to decide by themselves.
Thank you. Representative Cha.
Thank you. I do support the end of life option, but I would like to add that there needs to be more education done around it, and people need to understand, like what Senator Mitchell said about the guardrails and the circumstances. Being a son of two parents that I provide hospice care for, I've seen the challenges of, the end of life options for elderlies. I had a father who stayed with us for 3 years in hospice care, and I had a mother who stayed less than a year. But it was their choice to take the care necessary that they needed, or to option out of it. And so I've seen the two sides of the spectrum, and so I would like to give the people of Minnesota an option for the end of life, and I will continue to support that. So thank you.
Thank you. Representative Hansen.
Thank you. I think maybe a better description of the bill is end of life freedom rather than options, because this is the thing that's going to happen to all of us. And when you go through this process with loved ones who are dying, and the really difficult part that goes with that. I know the bill last year, I think, had different versions in the House and the Senate. There was an early hearing about it. I will need, in terms of a direct endorsement, I want to see the language that comes in front of us and read through that. But in general, I've been supportive in the past for end of life freedom, and I think will again. But I do want to make sure I read the bill and see what's there.
That's an interesting change, end of life freedom. That seems much more descriptive. Interesting. Representative Hemmingsen-Yager.
So yes, in short, I do support this bill. Again, I was a co-author on this. After reading the bill, looking at it carefully, it did have very specific parameters. And along with what some of my colleagues have said, it comes down to the freedom of making your own medical choices for yourself. And in the health committee, when we talked about this last year, there was some really powerful testimony from people that stated simply just having the prescription, having the option gave them so much comfort as they were facing and making these plans towards their own death. So definitely we'll be supporting it again.
Thank you. The next question is about affordable housing. And we're going to start with Senator Mitchell, and here is the question. The lack of affordable housing has been an ongoing issue, especially for seniors, low-income individuals, first-time home buyers, and individuals with disabilities. What legislation or policies would you support or propose to help Minnesota's housing market be more affordable?
Thank you for,
Senator
oh, yes, thanks for the question. So this is actually a space I got into last year. Sometimes you kind of chance into things that really haven't been your space because I work on a lot of environmental initiatives. If we have more housing options that are denser and closer to transportations, not only does it help with affordability, but it's more environmentally friendly because housing can be, a big emitter, and then giving people transportation options also helps. So it was kind of a merging of something I was already working on and a new space for me. One of the things we have to work on is cities have their zoning plans. Some are a little more inclusive, some are a little more exclusionary. So there's everything from aesthetics that and regulations on that that can raise prices to just maybe allowing people have what's called accessory dwelling units, having a mother-in-law suite on their land. So we're working on this in a lot of different spaces, much more than I can highlight in just a minute. So.
Thank you. Representative Cha.
Thank you. In the last session, I sat on housing for the state of Minnesota. And so that with a background in real estate and mortgages, I would say that number one is we are over 100,000 homes short in the state of Minnesota. So we need to build homes. Simple. It's real simple. We need to build more homes. On top of that, I agree with Senator Nicole Mitchell in regards to working with the local city and counties to have more friendlier zoning to encourage, more affordable dwellings for our residents and so on. And so, I'm going to come back to saying, hey, you know what, we need to build more homes in Minnesota, and we need to get together to find a solution for that. So more than I can say in a minute and 30, but thank you.
Thank you. Representative Hansen.
When we look at successful new housing in the district, it's generally a developer that's put together, worked with a package of tax incentives, maybe some direct subsidy, looking at public cleanup of old sites, brownfields. I think that we should continue on. Secondly, look at the existing built environment with some incentives for converting schools, maybe old office buildings, old warehouses, even churches, things that are no longer serving the original purpose, but they may have the accessibility and the water capacity to provide for housing. The more we build up, the less we have to build out. And then finally, looking at what's happening in California, we may have to be designing in things like fire breaks, water control structures for flooding, how we manage trees, things that we haven't thought of, but looking at the devastation with those fires there, we're going to have to do a little more planning as well as managing the increasing demand for housing.
Thank you. Representative Hemmingson Yeager.
So I think what people before me have kind of described is like we really need to be creative. We have a very high demand and houses take time to build. So I think we need to be creative, not only in how can we work with our city partners, our builders, and people in the community to build homes? How can we rehab some homes? But what else can we do to make housing more affordable? Can we look at student loans? Can we look at, homeowners associations dues? And, a big thing is the homeowners association insurance, like things that are happening outside of just your house that can actually make your housing more affordable. So I just think I look forward to continuing to be creative and coming up with solutions that are comprehensive and robust.
Thank you. Representative Johnson.
Thank you. When I was on the county board, we dealt with this a lot. And at that time, it was decided Washington County was either the or one of the top most unaffordable counties. And there was a number of reasons for that. But we need to look at what is causing it. We do not have enough homes. We do need to look at the permitting process. With being on housing, I've talked to some of the builders and contractors. we need to see what we're doing that's causing the other costs that people are having to pay to make their home less affordable. Senior citizens, we need to get rid of the Social Security tax, or taxing Social Security. We also need to get away from making housing more expensive in an attempt to make it more affordable. What I mean by that is continuing raising taxes and trying to fund things that only cause the cost of housing to go up in the desire to make it more affordable. So we have to have wiser decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Jody for our next questions now.
Thanks, Betsy. The next two questions deal with mental health and immigration. The rise of awareness of the impact of mental health issues in our communities should the state mandate that mental health coverage be included in all public or private health insurance? And why or why not? And we'll begin with Senator Mitchell.
Thank you for the question. I think the answer is really simple. Having a mental health issue is a health issue. It's no different than having a broken bone. So to me, why wouldn't we cover any medical issue that someone has? We shouldn't be treating it any differently. And it's a huge issue because I work with a lot of abused, neglected kids. I've been a foster parent. A lot of times, if you can get these resources sooner, people have better outcomes for the rest of their lives. We should do that because we care about people. But if we're just looking at it economically, and the cost of healthcare, it means we have more workers that can engage. It means we have fewer other problems down the road. So it makes sense on every single level. We need to do better in healthcare in general, and mental health absolutely is part of our healthcare.
Thank you. Representative Chava.
Yes, I'm the chief author of a bill called, Task Force on Climate Mental Health. And so that is to address the impacts of climate change to mental health. So I am a true believer that mental health is front and center in our communities, especially in our youth. And on top of that, in this last year, I had to deal with two mental health cases within my family. One involved just mental health between spouses and stuff like that, and I had to go through the system to understand that there are some deficiencies there that need to be addressed. Number two is that in our youth, it's front and center. It's very important because I've had two young people under 18 in my family who committed suicide in the past year. And so to me, it's a very important issue. And I think that as legislators, we need to do more for the state and protect lives. That's what we're trying to do. These health policies are to protect and save lives. So we'll continue to champion that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Representative Hansen.
I think looking at how do we tackle this issue with mental health, which is, I think everyone would agree, is a high demand. First, in the schools, the public schools, of making sure that we have mental health programs and assistance. That means more counselors. And again, how does that happen? It does take funding, but I think catching issues early and providing that assistance can have lifelong benefits. And when people move out into the workforce, having some mental health type of assistance on the job, that availability, I think, is a way of also preventing problems in the long run. In the question, it said 26 visits per year. I'm not sure what the best number is. That's not my area of expertise, but I think we have to find some way of providing mental health assistance. In addition, I think the overall healthcare issue, when you have one source of healthcare services, just one source, then prices go up. So how do we make sure that someone is not providing mental health services through their insurance? If that continues to happen, then you have cost differences that may make the actual price not achievable.
Thank you, Representative Hansen. Representative Hemmingson Yeager.
Thank you for this question. Yes, I would support expanding our insurance coverage to include mental health. It's care for mental health is not only in response maybe to what's happening right now in a situation, but it can also be preventative too. And we cover a lot of other preventative services for our physical health and well-being. Mental health impacts other health issues. It affects your ability to go to school or to go to work. It impacts our neighbors and our communities. And if you have poor mental health, like, you're going to have exacerbated health issues in the future. So responding to mental health issues now, preventing mental health issues prevents more expensive healthcare down the road. So I think we do absolutely need to cover and address it more.
Thank you very much. Representative Johnson.
Thank you. The issue of mental health really exploded during the COVID times and the actions that were taken at that time. I experienced that with our sheriff's department, and I talked to the schools. So it has become a real problem now, where the point that they're now putting out social workers with the police to address. They're that high of cases. But with that said, my concern is, again, with the other actions that were taken already in 23, 24, is putting more mandates on, specifically mandates that are not funded. My concern would be this would go to the insurers that, and the insurance rates will go up as a result of it. And that's going to cause a lot of more mental strain on people and more crises, because now they're having to pay for that as opposed to putting food on their table, paying for their housing and stuff like that. So any mandates going forward without a plan of where that money is going to go to pay for it, I'm not in support of. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question: if the incoming federal administration implements major changes in immigration and possible deportation, what would you propose or support to fill the resultant workforce shortage? And we'll begin that with Representative Shaw.
Yes, being from immigrant communities in the 80s, when we first came to America, a lot of our community members took upon these jobs that are so-called farm labor or labor jobs that we are not being taken up. And so I think I would say that, we have to look into our immigrant communities that is currently here. There are a lot of people here that are interested in working. Let me tell you, every immigrant person that comes to America wants to follow the law. And number two, they want to work. Nobody comes to America to say, you know what, I'm going to go take a paycheck. They come to America because of the opportunities to work, to earn money, and, to be a contributor to society. You have to understand that someone like me who lives in a country where I'm a second citizen or not even recognized, that I just want to be seen. And one way to be seen is to participate. And so I want to remind everyone that these immigrant families, they just want an opportunity to participate in our process. So thank you.
Thank you. Representative Hansen.
I think we're going to be in a very challenging time over the next few weeks. The last time there were some actions by the federal government roughly 8 years ago, you could see almost a chilling effect, both from folks who, even from people who've been here for many years legally, even 1 or 2 generations, because the impact, the stigma of or the fear of deportation and roundups. When you cast a net, you may catch people who were not being thought that they would be caught. And so I think we're going to see a dramatic impact on our economy, both in terms of all the way to retail purchases and shops and restaurants and coffee shops, just as the chilling effect moves through. What can we do as a state? I think we have to provide support and that's formal, just we support workers. We support our workers that are making our economy work, and the small businesses and the large businesses that they work in to make our state and our country work.
Thank you. Representative Hemmingson Yeager. Apologize.
Yeah, this is a really, I guess, interesting question. If the federal administration proposes and implements what they are threatening, I think it's going to be really harmful to our communities. It's going to be harmful to our families, and it's going to be harmful to our workforce. We know that a lot of our agriculture workers are immigrants. We know that a lot of our PCAs, our personal care assistants who are caring for our people with disabilities, our aged population, are immigrants. And, what I found very striking was when the state demographer gave a presentation on what does our population outlook look like in the future, basically the slide she put was, we can't have enough babies. We can't birth our way out of this this crisis, and we're going to have to rely on immigrants coming to Minnesota to fill these jobs that we need to do to run our economy and care for our neighbors.
Thank you very much. Representative Johnson?
Thank you. I agree. We need to have a better immigration policy. One of the things is I'm not, it says if the incoming, well, how many political promises and claims have we heard during campaigns that really don't follow through? So if it actually does go through, we can start dealing with it. But as an employer, my understanding is you have to be legally in the United States in order to hold a position like a coffee shop. I know there's an I-9 form you got to fill out to prove that you're illegal or that you're a legal citizen under green card or in purposes. So I'm a little concerned if we have a mass outflow of people, what's happening with that immigration law that's there that we've had for 20, 30 years. I think we do need to have more people coming into the country. We do need to have a process that can come in legally. I have talked to people that have said they've spent years, decades trying to get people in, and they're upset when we just let people in without control. So we have to have a better program.
Thank you. Senator Mitchell.
Thank you. I would like to say that I support the idea that, the United States is somewhere historically where people have come to make a better life for themselves, and that we should embrace people who want to come here, better their families, be part of our economy. It's part of what makes our country great. I also know that the current immigration process can be difficult. I helped a family in my community that had been separated from their young child for 6 years. And we're trying to get a child over to the United States, even though they were here legally and working and doing all the right things. So the process in general needs to be fixed. But in the meantime, we need to make sure that people understand that, they are welcomed and appreciated when they come in and want to be part of building this country and be part of our workforce. And we should treat them with the respect that they deserve.
Thank you very much, Senator. The next couple questions come from Betsy.
Gun violence and congressional maps are the focus for the next couple of questions. So we're going to start with Representative Hanson. Minnesota has made strides in gun regulation, but what additional regulation should we consider to address gun violence?
I think it's going to be very challenging in a divided legislature to find some common ground on gun violence. It shouldn't be, but I think it will be. One of the things I would propose is, we have essentially a volunteer system for gun safety training that is shrinking and aging. And so I think we need to do a better job of working on actual training and certification for those gun owners. And that ties into having the control of those guns in the home so that people there are kids or people accessing guns that may not. And if they do, if the parents have the guns, that they also have the safety training on trying to make sure that they're there. I think that could be a common ground thing that people should be able to agree on improving the gun safety training system that we have in Minnesota.
Thank you. Representative Hemmingsen-Yager.
Thank you. And Representative Hanson, you just reminded me, growing up in a small town, it was a big thing. Like, a lot of kids took the gun safety training, and I wasn't interested when I was a kid because I wasn't interested in guns, but you know, it was good to see kids getting educated to be safe and be responsible. You know, we did have some impactful bills passed, like the red flag laws and the universal background checks. So I appreciate those ones going forward. I continue to be concerned about kids finding guns laying out and then the tragedy that follows. So I think we can continue to look at some sort of safe storage. You know, my dad was a gun owner growing up, and he had them ammunition separate from the firearm, locked in a safe, locked in a closet where the kids didn't know where the closet was. So, you know, and that kept all of us safe. And so I think we can continue to look at ways to keep our kids safe.
Thank you. Representative Johnson.
Thank you. I grew up at a time when gun safety was taught. You still had a gun in the back window. Gun safety was taught during class and all that stuff. Both my son and daughter took gun safety in order to participate in what they wanted to, whether it was trap shooting. They needed to have that. So I don't know of any further regulations that I have seen that I would support at this time. I do support the fact that any existing laws should be enforced and do a better job of making sure they are enforced. And when that situation comes up, whether it's the red laws or whatever, that they are held accountable. Parents are held accountable. I taught my kids from day one, you do not mess with this. This is not a toy. We need to hold parents responsible for actions that are happening with guns that may be laying around. But right now, I can't support any further new laws. Thank you.
Senator Mitchell.
Thank you. So, you know, I just retired from 32 years military service. Comfortable with guns, know all the safety aspects, and it's something I still just don't feel comfortable around children because the statistics are that, and they've done studies where they took the parents in one room and the kids in one room and said, what do you do and what do your kids know? And they're like, oh, they don't even know where it is. And then they asked the kids, because kids get into everything. I've got kids. And the kids were like, oh, it's on the top shelf in the back. We played with it last week. So I think as responsible parents, it's our job to keep our kids safe and to make sure that if there is going to be a firearm in the home, that you know, we know exactly where it is, that it's secure, and that there is no chance of a very preventable accident. I mean, I think that's just the basic thing that we can do for our children, and that's an accountability that we need to hold for anyone that's a responsible gun owner.
Thank you. Representative Cha.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I am a gun violence survivor many times over, and I won't get into that, but, you know, we've done a couple of legislation in the past few years to address gun violence in Minnesota. One of them is the IRPA law that we passed. And I think that's very important that we continue to educate our community in regards to these extreme risk protection orders, and that we utilize this as a tool to save families and to save lives. I think that even though we've done some things in legislation, that we should continue, and we need to continue to pass gun legislation, because until all our families and children are safe from gun violence and gun, you know, suicide deaths, I think that there's a lot of work to do. And so I'll continue to push for you know, gun reform. So thank you.
Thank you. Our next question revolves around our congressional maps. So we're going to start with Representative Hemmings and Yeager, and here's the question. From 1961 to 2022, the courts in Minnesota drew congressional and legislative maps because the legislature and governor could not agree on maps. What is your perspective on changing Minnesota's current redistricting process to create an independent citizen commission with principles and a process to assure public input and participation and maps that reflect the nonpartisan interest of voters? Representative Hemmings and Yeager.
I think it's a great idea. You know, like you mentioned, the Maps have been done by the courts in the past because the legislature and the governor could not agree. I think that shows right there that there is bias. And so as a scientist, I want to make sure that we are being objective with our data and we are doing what is best for the voters in an equal and fair way. And I think that is probably the best way to ensure that every vote counts and every person's voice is heard.
Thank you. Representative Johnson.
I could not disagree more. Just in my experience and being around, I think we are getting more and more partisan, no matter whether at city level, county level, and everything that was nonpartisan is now partisan. They're trying to be there. I don't know who would then appoint this citizen committee that would not be able, that would be able to put aside their partisanship. I think it would just be continue to be claims on it, depending upon when it happened. I've been told the judges are from somebody that's been in the legislature for a long time, said she's been happy with the way it's happened with when the judges get it, because they're the ones that are supposed to be the most nonpartisan. And they have done, you know, a good job in watching out. So if we can't figure it out at the legislature, we should just turn it over to the judges. And while it's not perfect, and it drew the district I'm in right now, that confuses the heck out of me. It's still, they, I think, do the best job of trying to be nonpartisan. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Mitchell.
Thank you. Well, I want to be clear. It only gets kicked to the judges if the legislature can't agree. And, you know, we had previously had kind of a split House and Senate, and that's how we get where we are. Otherwise, you've got people drawing their own lines. And I think most people agree that not everyone would be completely unbiased if they get to draw their own lines. I actually want to thank the League of Women Voters for the work they've been doing on this for best practices for some of the commissions, because while I agree with it for the state level and we have bills proceeding on the state level, this is also an issue at the city and county level. So I actually worked with the League of Women Voters last session to start that dialogue about large counties and large cities, that people shouldn't be drawing their own boundaries because, you know, sometimes that goes wrong. And so I do think putting it in these kind of bipartisan, non-influenced hands is a much better idea. And it's what Minnesotans would prefer.
Thank you. Representative Cha.
Yes, thank you for the question. You know, in the past couple of elections, the state of Minnesota has had the highest turnout of voters in the nation, meaning we're #1 in voter turnout. You know, I'm going to put this on our community, right? Because you know what? I believe that our voters at the poll, those that are voting, and our state and our constituents should have equal participation in making those decisions. You know, as you know, when you left to legislator, we see what we see today, right? Some disagreements and power sharing agreements, and the list goes on. But I won't get into that. I just think that we should be inclusive of the community in terms of redistricting. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Hansen.
I think we could agree that maybe next time the line drawing starts in Washington County with logical boundaries and then moves around through the rest of the state. I actually think the judges do a good job and have for 50 years, and that in terms of independence and having a commission, maybe we should just formalize that the judges do it the way they've done it, where you have district court judges appointed by different governors. We notice compared to other states, there's no appeals because the Supreme Court Chief Justice has appointed them. So the system has been working. I think these are fairly fair maps. They do change over 10 years because the demographics of our state continue to change, where people live, and they need to be adjusted with the best available science and to make sure there's equality in communities of interest.
Great. I'm going to turn it over to Jody for the next 2 questions.
Thank you. Yes, I love Minnesota and I love Washington County. 2 of our final questions relate to dis and misinformation and civility for the legislative session. So the disinformation, and misinformation have been on the rise, especially with this last election cycle and the expansion of social media platforms. Many of our communities have lost their newspapers in recent years. Woodbury has introduced an online news publication, but many communities lack a trusted news source. What do you plan to do to help keep your constituents informed? And that was Representative Hemmingson Yeager.
Question. And, you highlighted a lot of really challenging things. We have not only disinformation and misinformation, we have the loss of our community newspaper. And, I take a lot of responsibility, and I'm very intentional and always thinking of ways I can reach constituents better. Another shout out, I really appreciate forums like this because it allows me to reach people where they are and just talk about issues that are important to them. I try to do my own social media, again, to meet people where they are. I'm very grateful for the communications people I have, not only my media staff at the house, but I have close friends and families that are in communication too, to just like, how can I better talk about what we're doing? I have newsletters that go out. I try to do a combination of print and digital, just again, always creative, always looking for ideas to better reach people where they are. And my office is always open for email and phone calls, so feel free to also get in touch with me as well.
Thank you. Representative Johnson?
Thank you. When I saw this question, it was an interesting question, and something we need to add in there, which just was shared with us from Meta, was the also censorship is another real issue with what you can and can't say on media, on social, that was brought to our attention. So it is, as they say, the more you can get the information out, it seems like the less we know. And so what I have done, it was mentioned before, we have newsletters that come out. I suggest recommend people to sign up for those. It is terrible. I remember the days of having a paper, Cottage Grove and paper, and more prominent, and that's how we got our information out, and that's how we found out about candidates. So it's been very tough. What I have done to do, and I've told people I'm willing to meet in forums like this whenever asked, even if I am the only Republican that shows up. Facebook, YouTube, all the social medias I participate in, there is an easier way to get the message out to people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Mitchell.
Thank you. Like other people have said, we just try and get out the word as much as possible. I know I've personally had 2 or 3 town halls, and then also joint town halls, 2 or 3 more of those in the last couple of years. And we try and always advertise them so people can do questions, attending forums, being out to events in our community. I believe we all have newsletters. So we're trying to do what we can, but I would also hope people feel like we can be approached. I know I'll take a meeting with anybody, even if I know, they might have completely different ideas than I do. Someone just asked a question in the chat and I didn't have the answer off the top of my head. I gave them my email and said, send it to my office. I will get it researched. We will get you an answer. So if there's a way we can connect better with people, let us know, because I think all of us would be willing to hear those ideas too, but we do what we can.
Thank you very much. Representative Chow?
Yes, I wish that the season of door knocking never stops, because that's where I have the best communication and conversation, regardless of what side of the aisle you are on. I would always like to advise my constituents that please do subscribe to my newsletter, because I think that's where you're going to get the most value in terms of reading about what's happening with your state legislator and representation. Number 3 is that, as we are moving away from a lot of these resources, I just want to commend former Senator Kent and Saltzman on putting together Woodbury News.net. And I think that's really great, because that's a resource that some of our constituents can get to and get some viable information. We have to be careful with this new age of technology, of AI and all these algorithms and so forth, right? And so we also have to account for that. But I think the best way is to reach out and have a conversation with your state legislator.
Thank you very much. Representative Hanson.
Relating to misinformation or disinformation, we have to lead by example. As legislators, elected representatives, we have to make sure when we are posting things that they are accurate and true. We have to lead by example and talk about that truth. What I try to do in my email updates is also link for more information. If there is a study that has been funded through one of our committees and the agency has got the report, put a link into the report. I chair the Legislative Audit Commission. When they look at are things working, put a link into that report. So you're getting more information or that opportunity. I think when there's falsehood, we need to call it out. I'm very concerned about social media now removing fact checking and letting the community decide what is truth. That concerns me. And I think the way to deal with that is we've got to have people talking face to face as much as they can in the future as human beings.
Thank you very much. Final question here, or I think there's one final one after that, but the end of the 2024 legislative session was quite contentious between the two parties. What steps would you propose or demonstrate in 2025 session to bridge the divide and reinforce the importance of legislators reaching across the aisle to get the work of the people accomplished? And we'll begin with Representative Johnson.
Thank you. So during the for new legislators, we have orientation, and during those orientations, they put both sides, Republicans and Democrats, together. So they've created a great atmosphere of learning the other side, learning people from the other side that you may not be able to see as much. And we did a lot of that, and I hung out with the Democrat elected Republicans quite a bit because I wanted to do that. I always felt as a nonpartisan position, it was always important to work with both sides. We had to work with both sides. So I did that. So I think that's a great avenue. I think it was going down a great road because of the way we're tied now. It kind of not as much right now, but we don't have a choice this year. We have to get 68 votes to pass a bill. This year, more than ever, we will need to reach across, find people to work with our bill, want to support our bill to go forward. So if there's ever going to be a year of working together, it's going to be this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Mitchell.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a hard thing. I understand, like, I chose to go into politics, but I grew up in my community and I love my community and love doing things to help my community. But the partisanship and sometimes even the personal attacks, it's really hard because I don't think that's how we should treat each other. And I have always had friends on both sides of the aisle, and I don't understand, even sometimes in the legislature, someone who's your friend and then they turn around and it goes straight to politics when you get to the floor. So I think we all just need to do better. I know I've worked on, for example, a lot of veterans bills. I always reach across the aisle because that's an issue that's nonpartisan to see if someone wants to sign on or has a different idea. But it takes everyone both trying to do it and also telling their leadership that they need to be part of that solution at the same time. Thanks.
Thank you. Representative Cha.
Yes, in 47B, I won by 54% versus 46. So I still have to represent 46 of my other constituents on the other side of the aisle. I think that my work record and, the work that I've done in the past in the legislature in the last 2 years reflects my bipartisanship in the way I work in terms of my bills. I've sat on agriculture and pensions, and in pensions, we've had a lot of great discussion across the aisle with our colleagues in the Senate and in the House. And so, I will continue to do what I've always done since I've been in the legislature, is to continue to work with my colleagues across the aisle, to come to agreements that is workable. Now, of course, we're not going to agree on everything, but you know what? The opportunity to learn about each other and the values and what matters to all Minnesotans is always a priority in my office and in my district. And I'll continue to champion those opportunities and opportunities to learn about each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Hanson?
I think we need some structural reforms to make sure we've got good practices adopted and followed. For example, last year in the environment, we did pass the LCCMR bill early and standalone. It was not included in an omnibus bill at the end. And then we passed a policy bill. It was an omnibus policy bill, but it wasn't passed with the budget bill. And then we were able to get the budget bill done before the mess at the end because we had worked on these other bills and could find common ground. So I think there needs to be some benchmarks in terms of bills getting to the floor. I think an easy one would be saying that the constitutional funding bills, whether they're in legacy or whether they're the lottery, that those should get to the floor by the middle of March. We don't have to do things the way we've done them since 1858. We can do these things differently. We've demonstrated we can. Let's formalize it, make it work, hold people accountable, and that can be done maybe this year when divided government, that there could be agreement on that. The things that the people have voted for constitutional funding should be something that we could agree on and get across the line early. That would be a start.
Thank you very much, Representative Hemmingson Yeager.
There's a lot to unpack, I think, in this question. So I think first and foremost, what I can demonstrate and what I can propose is basically just leading by example. It's hard sometimes to really make sure that you're leading by example, leading with integrity. And I think this is a really good opportunity this coming session with the 67 in the House to really show Minnesotans that we can work together and we can come back to our values and we can talk about the issues in a way that has some good compromise. We do it in our families, we do it in our communities. And I think this is, like I said, a good opportunity for both sides to show that it can be done. I will continue to get information for my bills from all sorts of sources. A lot of my really cool bills were bipartisan. The cryptocurrency kiosks was me and a Republican. The solar panels for homes was a Republican on the bill. So there's a lot of good work that can be done. And I just hope we can get past the political theater to really get to work for Minnesotans.
Well, thank you very much. And I toss it back to Betsy for the final comment.
We're coming to the end of our time. It always goes so fast and we never quite have time to get to everything. First of all, I want to say before we finish, how much I appreciate all of you taking your time for this. It's a really critical opportunity to hear from our legislators before the session starts. So I want to first, before we end up, say that. We're going to give you another minute, believe it or not, to add some concluding comments to today's discussion and talk about, what is, as you're closing, what's one perspective you'd like your audience to take away? These are the people that you're serving, that have elected to you. And so it's a wonderful opportunity for them to hear from you. And then we're going to start off with Senator Mitchell.
Thank you again for having us all here and allowing this opportunity. I want to start by saying we were joking a little before this started that I said, don't be surprised if my kids go running through the background. I'm shocked they did not make an appearance at some point in time. But, I say that to highlight that we are real people. We live in your communities. We go to the same schools as some of your other kids do. We are out and about and, we care. And so, however, and we're your government, right? So if we can help you, even if it's not a legislative idea, if we can help you with an issue that somehow has the state government realm, or even refer you to another agency, that's what we are here to do. So I already gave my email to someone in the chat. There's all sorts of ways to contact us. but we are your government, and please reach out.
Thank you. Representative Cha.
Thank you once again for the League of Women's Voice for the opportunity to participate, and like always, appreciate the platform, the transparency. I want to thank those of you that elected me to office once again for my second term. I much appreciate it. I'm humble and privileged to serve another 2 years in the legislative house. I think I want to leave you all with that, regardless if it's January or if it is in December, that as your state representative, I'm always working for you. I'm always working, regardless of the schedule that we're accustomed to from January to May. And so I want to let all of you know at the start of this new session that regardless of January 14th or if it's January 1st, I will continue to work in your priorities, continue to represent the values that matters to my constituents and those of you that voted for me. And so with that, please reach out and I will be waiting. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Hansen.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. I think, as I mentioned earlier, the next few days, the next few weeks, the next few months are going to be unprecedented. And I also mentioned we need to be clear in terms of what we're saying as elected officials. I want to cycle back to the immigration question because it was focused on workforce. And we didn't really talk about the deportation. If there are undocumented persons who are convicted of murder, I think they should be deported. But what I was commenting on is the chilling effect of if people are going to be deported who are not undocumented, convicted of violent crimes like that, it is going to have an impact on our workforce. Tariffs, budget cuts, laying off employees, all these things at the federal level are going to cycle down to the state level. And so the best way to have those impacts is to be working with us, contact us. We work for you. It's going to be a bumpy road ahead. We're going to rely on the public to help us out get through this.
Thank you. Representative Hemmington Yeager.
Thank you. And again, big thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this. It's always cool to get everybody together. Thank you to my colleagues who have been here. It's great to kind of kick off the session and talk to you. And then thank you to everybody watching too. I really appreciate you taking the time on a Saturday morning to listen to us and our ideas. I think this position is really an honor and a privilege, and I take the responsibility of earning your trust very seriously. I will continue to reach out as many ways that I can. I encourage you as well to reach out. Let me know your thoughts. We can have a conversation. We can learn about each other. And I look forward to continuing to serve our community.
Thank you. Representative Johnson. First of all, thank you, also, for jumping in here, especially as the newbie. It's not always easy. But hopefully it also allows you to get to know who the other people are in the district, which is great.
Yeah, thank you for hosting this, and thank you for the people that watch this. I think it's important as another way to get involved. And I think it's important people realize, as the saying goes, politics is messy. And a lot of stuff that you see is messy. However, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, a lot of connections being made from day one onwards. We all live in the community. I have myself have been involved in being a county commissioner and city council, so I'd spent a lot of time down at the Capitol already building relationships. So we are working together. The state has been around for a long, long time. We always figure it out. We always get done when we need to get done. And while a lot of this stuff that you see online in the news is theater, there is a lot of great work going on, and we realize we have to have each other to get anything done. And I know we will get the work done for everybody in Minnesota this year. Thank you.
Thank you. As we're closing, I just want to speak to the people who are watching this. We as citizens have a responsibility to partner with our legislators to make things happen. These people you all that are seeing this morning, they're not sitting in ivory towers. They live in our communities, they represent us, and we need to step up and partner and let, first of all, them know what we believe and think and want them, how we want them to represent us. But it has to be all of us together to support and keep our democracy as strong as possible. Again, I thank you all so much for you taking your time and being here. I know Representative Seeberger and Klein and DePel wanted to be here somewhere out of town. So, hopefully next year we'll have all 8, which would be just awesome. Please go to our web page, LWV. Oh gosh, there's too many letters and dots and everything. It is LWV. I'm looking at my WCG.org. Because that tells you the upcoming events. And so look for things to keep yourself involved. The YouTube channel will be on our website that has done all this recording. And also look for upcoming events. Take care. Have a wonderful session. Good luck to you all. We'll be thinking about you. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
all of you.